Exactly. Good morning. Today is Wednesday, May 20th, and we have decided that on Wednesdays we will be hooking up with another professional or parent or somebody in the special needs community who can share some of their expertise and insights with us, and hoping that these talks will help someone. So here we go. For our very first one, we have our very own Natalie. She is our Director of Operations and the glue that holds our organization together. We have been together for over 15 years, and I could not run the place without her. That is for sure. Anybody that knows Natalie knows exactly what I'm talking about. I actually met Natalie many, many moons ago with her own little daughter. I believe I was one of her kiddos' first therapists. And as they say, the rest is history. And here we are together, helping as many families as we can. So today, Natalie's a little ahead of sort of a lot of the families who we work with. Her kiddos are, in their early 20s or just about to be there. So I thought it would be a really nice opportunity for her to talk to us about funding options and sort of what's out there right now. So without further ado, we will turn it over to Nat. So the first question that I have, that I've also been hearing from parents, is are there any updates with special services at home? Special services at home is often referred to as SSAH, and historically it's been a government funding option for families who have children with additional needs who may need primarily, from my understanding, respite support. So whereas OAP funding wouldn't cover something like respite support or having a cleaning lady come to the house to help with laundry and sanitization and things like that, special services at home funding through the government, which is a yearly funding once you've applied, would cover that sort of support. So just wondering that if during the pandemic, we've heard.
So special services at home, you're absolutely right, Lolly, is a government funded um, um, government funded for families with individuals with special needs. There have been some new temporary changes to eligible expenses due to the current COVID pandemic. Since many of the families are now at home and practicing social distancing, there has been a need for this change in terms of how they spend their annual funding. So some of the things, just to list a few, sensory items have now been included in one of the eligible expenses, such as bouncy balls, weighted vests, and
Oh
this
my
is to
goodness, I know some families who are dying for a trampoline.
yes, I know of families too. So this is to help support the individuals who rely on sensory items to, to relieve stress, anxiety, and to just support them in their home. Another big change, this is a big, big one, is the use of technology. Everybody seems to be online these days. So with technology, they are now allowing expenses such as laptops, tablets, and
Oh,
iPads,
wow.
which is a great source of help for many, many families and their children. They're even going so far as to allow things like webcams and microphones to be covered on during this time. There's also for children and families media service subscriptions such as Netflix or Disney Plus, because special services at home is not just meant for the individual child that has the special needs, but it also encompasses the family
Right. That's a
needs. So
huge
that's
point.
something that's also very welcoming. Um, there's also, they don't cover any smartphones. That's a question
Hmm.
that many families have been asking. So that's something that I just want to put out there. It's not included as part of their technology.
Okay.
But there's certainly a lot that families can make use of, given that we're using a lot of devices now at home.
I'd be interested to know if they cover the actual service itself, like for families in the north or families who live in sort of poor internet areas. I'm going to look in. I wonder if they actually cover the
The
um,
Wi-Fi?
the Wi-Fi.
Okay, so initially the answer was no.
Oh, of course, you know the answer.
Yeah, the answer
Yeah.
was no, and many families have emailed special services at home or made connections with their special agreements officers to ask these sort of questions. Now, it's still not 100%. I did read somewhere, but because it wasn't on the ministry's website, it's not something that I'm going to put out there. I think that if you wanted to have that question answered for having Wi-Fi covered, like a monthly expense during this temporary COVID time, I would definitely reach out to your SAO, your Special
What?
Agreements Officer, to find out.
Okay,
So
SAO,
there's a little
Special
bit more.
Agreements Officer.
Pardon?
I said SAO is Special Agreements
Yes. So
Officer. So that's
everybody
your
who
connector. That's your
correct. So
connection.
everybody who currently has and is receiving um, funding from special services at home, when they send you a contract, they assign you a special agreements officer, and your special agreements officer is usually assigned to you based on your postal code. So if you ever forget their name, or often they change, that's just what happens in the ministry. You just have to give your postal code, and they will give you the name and extension of who you should be contacting.
Amazing. Okay,
All right.
amazing. I
Um,
should let everybody know that a little later on today, we will definitely post all of the links for special
yes.
services at home and any of the other funding options that we're talking about, just so that if you happen to not have registered or known about special services at home, you'll have the direct link to actually apply.
Perfect.
Um, Another big one that we heard about, that the government has made extensions to our tax deadlines. So I'm pretty sure that given the pandemic, many of us have not submitted our taxes yet. And, right? Have you heard anything about the disability tax credit, the DTC?
Yeah, it
Do
hasn't been
families know?
spoken about a lot, but there's just a small change that has happened. Um, so, yeah, the DTC, or the disability tax credit, is something that helps persons with disabilities or their supporting family members reduce the amount of tax that they may have to pay. Um, so now's a perfect time, since they've extended tax season until, I believe, sometime in June, that if you wanted to have a tax disability credit completed and submitted along with your taxes this year, it's the perfect time to actually go to your family doctor or pediatrician or psychologist. Actually, if you go online, and the actual disability tax credit is a T2201, you can find it in a PDF file online. You can print it up, and you can actually bring it to um, uh, your family doctor or pediatrician, and they will complete it for you, and then you can file it. The credit can actually also be backfiled for as many as 10 years.
Wow.
You can
Okay.
backdate it 10 years, and it can result in quite a big sum of money, additional refund that you can get.
And
Um,
let me just recap. So this is for the disability tax credit that it is added, that you attach to your annual tax return
that is correct.
every year. The disability tax credit, the form itself is the T2201,
You got it.
which you can find on the government website. We'll attach it. We'll put up a post on Facebook and Instagram later, and we'll attach all of these links. That's amazing to know. So if you get the T2201 signed by psychologist, family doctor, a professional on that medical professionals list, I should let a lot of you guys know, given many doctors are now doing telehealth appointments, this may be something that you can do through telehealth. So do book an appointment with your doctor if this is something that could be of benefit to your family, and see if you actually can book a telehealth appointment and go through this. Um, and last but not least, that if you haven't known about this and haven't done this in the past, you can actually backdate your T2201 for possibly up to 10 years.
Yeah, it used to be
Oh,
5 years, it's
amazing.
now 10 years, which is really great for
Amazing.
families.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, that's huge. And nobody's missed the deadline because tax extensions are now extended till June at the very least.
That's right.
Amazing. That's huge. Amazing. What about ODSP? What is it? And have you heard about anything changing that families could know about?
Yeah, so many of our families who originally, they get funding from up until the age of 18, and when you turn 18, ODSP, Ontario Disability Support Program, is an income support that is paid to individuals with a disability. And basically, what it is used for is it helps pay for living expenses, such as food and shelter.
0
Um,
to 18.
no, so this ODSP is for 18 plus.
Okay.
18 plus is ODSP.
Okay.
And many of our clients will graduate and are now receiving ODSP.
Mm-hmm.
So what they have done for the ODSP clients who have additional expenses right now that's related to COVID-19 is they have added an additional payment of $100 for a single person or $200 for a family to their existing benefit. This has started since the month of March and will now, they were only going to do it for 1 month, but given that we're always being updated with the changes and the continued closures in the city, they are now going to give the extra $100 for a single person for the months of March, April, May, June, and July. But there's one important thing here that you should know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you have not yet requested it, it's not an automatic payment. Okay. So you have to actually pick up the phone and request it, which I did for my daughter. There is a 1-800 number that we will give you the link to, and you can call, but you only have to call one time, and then the following months will become automatic. Okay.
Okay. Cool.
Um,
Yeah.
you basically have to call this 1-800 number. You have to give the person who has the disability coverage, you give their full name. They're assigned a member ID when they're an ODSP client. So you have to give your ID number. And you also have to justify your expenses. You don't just automatically get the $100. I can tell you that many of us, given that we have these young adults at home with special needs, many of them are immunocompromised. So these expenses could automatically go towards things like masks, gloves, when you're taking them out into the community, and even like things like disinfectant, hand sanitizer, etc. That expense for $100 is easily covered. I would definitely recommend that you hang on to any of your receipts because technically you can be audited at any given
Right. Of course. Like always, anything, right?
time.
Um, keep everything, people. Um, what about if we're talking about adults now? What about passport funding?
Okay,
So that's a lot we hear about, or I see a lot about online. What's going on with
yes.
passport funding and what is it?
So passport funding is also something that my daughter receives, and there has been some updates. Passport funding is basically money that you receive um, for help with daily living and getting you out into the community with the support that you need. Um, so let's compare it to special services at home for a minute. For special services at home, you receive funding from, let's say, the age 0 to 18. Okay. And then all
Hmm.
of a sudden, passport is really what takes over your SSAH, which we discussed at the very beginning, special services at home. You still have to apply. It doesn't mean that one automatically kicks in when you turn 18. You still have to apply for the passport funding. And the changes that have taken place are very much, they're almost identical to special services at home. So the things that I mentioned, there was a few that I hadn't mentioned. We talked about sensory items. We
Hmm.
talked about an addition to technology that's also going to be included in passport funding for families because we're all in home. They also talked about, and this also applies to SSAH when I say this, activities that are supported by home at home. So um, activities like arts and crafts supplies that you may buy, okay, because you're doing everything home based. Maybe you're into puzzles or board games or leisure books that you're adding on to your daily routine. So all these things would be covered not only through SSAH, but also through Passport, but again on a temporary basis, just due to the COVID pandemic.
Right.
They're also including for both Passport and SSAH physical activity purchases, such as um, yoga mats, okay, or a
It's a big
skipping
one,
rope,
physical activity right
or
now.
yeah, resistance bands, anything to support fitness at home. Equipment supplies, trampoline you had mentioned very early on that some of our families were inquiring about that.
I wonder if it
Even
would cover, sorry to interrupt, I wonder if it would cover an actual workout program like Beachbody, right? Where like you sign up and you have access to all of these different workouts.
no, I wouldn't say no. I would always ask first to make sure that it would be covered.
Yeah.
They're even covering things that are on your property but may not be indoors, like an outdoor basketball net to get outside
Oh,
and get the fresh
nice.
air. So at first we were very narrow in our thinking and saying, is it just for indoor activities? Like, what about outdoors? Now, one thing that I had inquired about was about a bicycle. Many kids are learning to ride wanting to ride their bikes outside. So it is not actually listed. A bicycle is not actually listed on the ministry website. But after inquiring, they are saying that it is covered. And again,
Got
with
it.
all this, you must keep your receipts. You must keep
Always.
your receipts, okay? Because you will have to submit it. They're also including personal protective equipment and supplies, like we mentioned earlier with ODSP, so gloves, masks, cleaning supplies, etc.
It's amazing that it's all being covered. Let's just hope that if that's what it comes to as the city opens up, that we have enough to go
Enough,
around for
and
everybody. That's the big question,
that's the concern everywhere
right?
with businesses opening, with potential. Maybe some camps may stay open, maybe not. They're thinking of late July, August, if anything. So everybody's going to need this.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to need it. There's
Before,
also,
yeah.
sorry, there's also one more thing for special services at home as well as through Passport, essential service delivery fees. If we do have children or young adults at home with us and they are immunocompromised and we're not really getting out of the house a lot, and we want our, for example, groceries delivered, and there's a fee
Yeah.
to that, or if we
Corner
want
store.
our prescriptions and pharmacy deliveries, that is also being covered, which is a great assistance to families who can't get out there.
Huge. Okay. These
Um,
are some really good changes.
yeah.
Or some, I guess, amendments, temporary amendments. Um, just before we go, is there anything else? I know we talked prior to this about the not the CERB, the
SES,
the student
yeah,
benefit,
yeah,
the
CESB. Yeah,
CESB, Canadian Emergency Student Benefit.
yeah. So I'm also just learning about this because my daughter's applying. So it was just in April, actually, that Trudeau announced a new financial program for students. Originally, it was the CERB, and then the Canadian Emergency Student Benefit came up. And applications, I believe, just started May 15th, which was last week.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's to help students that to assist post-secondary students who are without jobs this summer, because there's going to be many, many of them across the city. So you need to have been enrolled in a post-secondary study in order to be able to apply, or you're starting a post-secondary study come September. And the CESB will provide eligible students with a monthly benefit of up to $1,250 per month, starting from May all the way through August. So that is
So
going
the
to be
summer jobs that they would have
yeah,
had to carry them through, the government is helping to support them with up to $1,250 a month,
that's right.
as
And I'm
long
sure
as
there's
they were enrolled or were enrolled to start in September or were already enrolled in some sort of post-secondary.
that's right. And I'm sure there's
Okay,
going to be changes and amendments, and we just have to pay close attention to the news to see, you know, what happens from day to day.
amazing. Nat, this was amazing, and I hope that it will help some families who watch this later on. And now we're going to say goodbye and start our day, go on to our next meeting. Thank you so, so much. I'll see you
Thank you
soon.
so much for having me.
Bye, honey.
Bye.